The transatlantic slave trade involved European traders exchanging goods for enslaved Africans. This system spanned from the 16th to the 19th centuries. The transatlantic slave trade was driven by European demand for labor in the Americas. European economic interests significantly amplified the transatlantic slave trade. Demand for labor-intensive crops like sugar and cotton in the Americas fueled the brutal expansion. The transatlantic slave trade was driven by the economic need for cheap labor in the Americas. Approximately 12.8 million Africans were forcibly transported across the Atlantic. Between 1.2 and 2.4 million Africans died during the voyage due to inhumane conditions and disease. Inhumane conditions and disease contributed to the high mortality rate during the transatlantic voyage. Modern genetics confirms that all humans originated in Africa. Subsequent human migrations led to phenotypic diversity across the globe. Variations in skin tone are adaptations to different environmental conditions. The concept of whiteness emerged as a social construct. This racial category was tied to colonial hierarchies. It was used to justify the subjugation and exploitation of non-European populations. Early slavery, exemplified by Barbary Coast practices, primarily targeted white Christians. These instances demonstrate that slavery was initially based on factors other than race, such as religion. The historical record indicates that religious and conquest-based factors preceded race as primary drivers of enslavement. Biblical figures such as Jesus and Moses originated from the Afro-Asiatic region. The ethnic background of early Israelites reflects the cultural context of the ancient Afro-Blacks. The Afro-Asiatic origins of these figures are rooted in the historical and geographical landscape of the time. During European colonialism, depictions of historical figures were often whitewashed. Whitewashing involved presenting figures with European features, erasing their original cultural identities. This erasure distorted historical accuracy and promoted a biased representation of these figures. The Bible's first commandment prohibits idolatry. Eurocentric imagery dominates religious representations, obscuring the Bible's African roots. Dominance of Eurocentric imagery promotes a distorted view of religious history. Whitewashing religious figures constitutes a form of identity theft. This appropriation distorts the cultural and historical heritage of Afro-Asiatic peoples. The practice effectively steals and misrepresents the original identities of these figures. Bipolar disorder affects mood swings and expressions, but is unrelated to racial features. Bipolar disorder is used to depict multiple white men faces while used as Christ, with whitewash, stolen identities from black cultures. Facts has nothing to do with medical terminology, but to steal a person's identity and displace it with whitewashing. Superiority's virgin is a mental problem seen in white history of told lies. The term bipolar face is misused to perpetuate racial bias in facial identity recognition. This misuse pathologizes black bodies by associating specific facial features with negative stereotypes. Such biases reinforce the whitewashing of identities by prioritizing Eurocentric facial features as the norm. Historical records indicate complicity and resistance occurred across various racial groups during the slave trade era. Some African groups participated in the slave trade, while others actively resisted it. The industrial-scale brutality of the slave trade was primarily driven by European demand. Decolonizing faith involves addressing the historical theft and distortion of cultural and religious identities. Challenging Eurocentric representations is essential for restoring authentic historical and religious narratives. Restoring authentic narratives requires critical examination of imposed identities and reclaiming indigenous perspectives. A true understanding of history requires nuance, avoiding simplistic divisions. Historical events are complex and multifaceted, demanding careful analysis. History needs to be rewritten with the truth told. Why this world is complex is because telling lies has been accepted as the truth. Historical lies told are contemporary, makeshift society. Institutions such as the Smithsonian, UNESCO, and the NMAAHC provide valuable resources for further exploration. Academic works, including Christian slaves, white European masters, and also Muslim masters, offer in-depth analysis of complex historical issues. Exploring diverse resources deepens understanding of multifaceted historical topics.